Today's housing market just continues to be on fire between records being broken, prices hitting all-time highs, but with that said, there is growing concern regarding the future of this housing market. Everyone wants to know, can these prices continue to climb? Are we in the midst of an affordability crisis? And with Jerome Powell looking poised to continue as the head of the Federal Reserve, he's already made it clear the plans he has that could have a severe effect on the housing market. What's up guys, it's James Allen, the Out-of-State Investor, and today I'm going to share with you the latest information we have on the housing market and what it means for you as a buyer or a seller in today's market. But before I get started, do me a favor, support the channel by smashing that like button, and if you haven't already done so, definitely subscribe and hit that notification bell to watch more content like this. And with that said, let's jump into it. According to the National Association of Realtors, pending sales is currently up 7.5% month over month, which is a big deal because the experts actually predicted it was only going to be 0.7%. Now, pending sales is just simply houses that are under contract to be purchased. But at the same time, closed sales have also gone up as well in October. And what we're really seeing right now is demand is starting to increase right now. But the question really is what is causing this demand? What is causing people to want to buy houses right now? Well, there's really a couple of factors at play here. On one hand, you have interest rates, and on the other hand, you have rents. With interest rates, most people realize that based on what the Fed plans to do, interest rates are likely to start rising starting next year. At the same time, you have rents that have been growing at astronomical rates like we've never seen before, and because of that, it's actually pushing people more and more into realizing that buying a home makes more sense for the majority of metro areas. So as a buyer, people really see this as their opportunity to buy, their window of opportunity where they can lock in these all-time low interest rates versus waiting another year where the interest rates are much higher, where the price is higher, and then overall your monthly payment is much more unaffordable. Another thing to consider is millennials are starting to get to that prime age of buying a home. You see, millennials, people don't realize, is the biggest population in America, and for many years millennials have been known to be renters versus owners. Well, that narrative is starting to shift because although millennials only make up 22% of the population, they accounted for 37% of all home buyers in 2020. Now, of the 37%, 23% of those millennials were older millennials and 14% of them were younger millennials, which suggests that there's still plenty of room and growth for the home buying activity amongst millennials once they start reaching that traditional peak of home buying, which is typically in the mid-30s. Now, according to Redfin, October house prices went up a reported 0.9%, which put us at a $378,700 median sales price for the month of October. Now that puts us at a 13.2% increase year over year, which is normally a very strong increase, but in this situation it's the lowest growth rate we've seen actually since December of 2020, which on one hand doesn't say much because we just experienced the craziest year we've experienced in a long time, but at the same time it does show that things are starting to slow down a little bit from where they've been back in like March and April time. Now, one of the biggest contributors to the housing prices going absolutely insane is this tight housing supply that we're currently sitting on, and unfortunately that hasn't really changed. We're sitting on about 1.25 million housing units, which is down 0.8% from September, and on top of that it's down 12% year over year. Now, based on where October sales were at, we're looking at 2.4 months of inventory, which is a strong seller's market. Typically a balanced market is between 4 to 6 months of inventory, so sitting at 2.4 months is definitely more on the seller's side. So just based off of this tight supply and the fact that construction is really struggling to keep up with the demand, at the moment for the short term we're going to expect that house prices are going to continue to grow. Now, although that's a lot of good news for the housing market, at the same time there's a lot of concern about the future of mortgage interest rates because that has an opportunity to actually really slow down the market. You see, Jerome Powell, who's actually going to continue as the Fed chair, has made it clear that he has growing concerns about this inflation crisis that we're experiencing, and because of that, he may end up having to speed up the tapering of these treasury bonds and mortgage-backed securities. So for those who don't understand what I'm talking about, the Federal Reserve has been purchasing billions of dollars of these treasury bonds and mortgage-backed securities for the past several months since the pandemic started, and that has artificially kept down these mortgage interest rates to the point where we've been at these all-time all-time record lows. Now, by tapering these purchases, that just simply means they're going to be buying less and less every single month until they eventually get to $0. And what that does is, by doing that, that's going to cause mortgage interest rates to rise again. Well, as of November, the Fed has already started this process, and the original plan was to taper gradually until we hit around the summer of 2022. But with this growing concern of inflation hitting an over 30-year high, with cost of living going up over 6.2% year over year, and Jerome Powell changing his stance saying that this is not a transitory problem anymore, we have to understand that there is a very real possibility that the Fed could end up speeding up this process, which could end up causing interest rates to spike faster. So between inflation putting a lot of pressure on interest rates and the economy recovering the way it is, it's very likely to expect that interest rates will rise over the next year. But with that said, the real question is just how much will they rise? Well, according to most experts, they expect it to go up to either the high 3s or the low 4s by the end of next year. And this is going to be interesting because if that ends up happening, it is enough to slow down the growth that we've been experiencing, but at the same time, it's not enough to cause a housing crash, and definitely not even any kind of price declines. The reality is only time will truly tell what the future holds for the housing market, but my personal expectations is I think the housing market is perfectly primed for more gains over the next year. The demand is still there, the inventory is extremely low, delinquency rates are still going down, and unless interest rates grow at a remarkable rate way beyond what the expectations are from all the experts, I just don't see a world in which the housing market crashes in 2022. Eventually, affordability will have to come into play because you can't have house prices continually outpace wages, but at least for now, we're not currently sitting at an alarming rate as far as affordability goes. So with that said, that's the latest of what's going on with the housing market. We'll have to keep a close eye on what the Fed ends up doing, along with what happens with mortgage interest rates, because it plays such a major role in what happens with the future of housing prices. But with that said, if you gained any value from today and if you enjoyed today's video, do me a favor and smash that like button. And if you haven't already done so, definitely subscribe and hit that notification bell to watch more videos like this. Also, let me know your thoughts or questions in the comments below and I'll do my best to respond. Finally, follow me on Instagram and TikTok at The Out of State Investor. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.